Thank you so much. I'm deeply honored to share space with you all tonight on this 50th anniversary of University Without Walls. First, I want to say thank you to Associate Provost Joe Bartolomeo and Department Chair Jacqueline Castledine. Also, to Melanie De Silva and her team for organizing this event. And with the fullness of my heart, thank you to Professor Modinos, who was once my advisor and is now a dear friend. I know that the work at University Without Walls takes an entire community effort. So to all of you who I've met in previous years, and to all of the new recruits I've yet to meet, thank you for all the work that you do. I know that I speak on behalf of the students and the alumni when I say that we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you. So to start off my talk tonight, I wanted to give you a better idea of who I am. I was born in 1982, the second child to a single mother, age 20, in a house with dirt floors. I spent my formative years in rural trailer parks of dairy farming communities in Quebecois-dominated northern Vermont. I experienced chronic homelessness and witnessed years of domestic violence. I was even on the receiving end of Canadian white nationalism against First Nation Abenaki, all while growing up gay at the fever pitch of LGBTQ equality in the mid to late 90s. My house burned down at age 15, and I lost my mother to cancer just 18 months later. The fabled American dream that's taught in schools, at least for me, was never real. And I know you may be thinking, what a depressing way to start an inspiring talk. But learning to let go of the things that I couldn't change and channeling it into my work was an act of self-compassion. For me, it was my liberation. The focus on my adult life is making positive change wherever I'm allowed to make it and erasing barriers for people who grew up just like me. What I learned along the way is that if I'm willing to work for pennies on the dollar or even offer my services free of charge, I get invited to prestigious or influential spaces to inspire and co-create change. For a boy who scraped by in abject poverty, who to this day is still not compensated for his contributions, I've done quite well for myself with very little at my disposal. Boys from trailer parks don't get to be keynote speakers for public universities, and yet here I am. So when I first applied to be a student at University Without Walls in 2015, I hadn't given much thought about how I wanted to show up in the world, nor thoughts about where I came from, where I wanted to go, or all the wrongs that I wanted to correct in the world. I sat that first weekend in a classroom just off campus with my advisor, Lisa Modinos, and she explained to me this daunting process of planning out my degree. Trust the process, she said. Don't listen to the doubt inside your head. And I'm so thankful that I listened to her. What the degree planning process laid out before me, like many of us in attendance tonight, is a roadmap. It was my roadmap. University Without Walls offers all of us a roadmap to wherever we want to go from here, no matter where here is. The following semester, she helped me as I began to write my prior learning experience portfolio. Never in my life did a person with a PhD and the backing of a public institution say that the years I spent 16-hour shifts in a domestic violence shelter were meaningful, or that my shoulders, wet with tears from LGBTQ youth, served a purpose. In my heart, I knew it was meaningful and that it served a purpose. But to have a public university encourage me to take an inventory of my life and to then recognize my life as having value is truly radical. Lisa saw me. So did the other advisors who read my portfolio. For 50 years, they've always seen the value that adult students bring to higher education. It's because of University Without Walls that I started to think about how I wanted to show up in the world, to think about where I came from, where I wanted to go, and all the wrongs that I wanted to correct in the world. It gave me a technical blueprint on a way forward that integrated the better parts of me with a world-class education to make me smarter, stronger, and engaged. For the first time in my life, I started to think about my own attainable legacy. The years after I graduated, I found my way to a professional certification in positive psychology. Now, where traditional psychology focuses on making sense of the past to prepare individuals to meet their present, positive psychology meets people at their present and helps them make sense of their future. Like many branches of humanistic psychology, positive psychology curricula asks students to use the tools on themselves to be actively engaged in the meaning-making process. One such concept that has stuck with me is the Japanese concept of ikigai, which in English loosely means a reason for being. Now, the Americanized approach identifies your ikigai as something you love, something you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can also be paid for. But to me, I think this is a rather capitalistic view of a non-capitalistic concept and misses the true spirit of a reason for being. You see, when you first start your own ikigai, you're not going to be very good at it. I know I wasn't. You will have days where you lose or you feel defeated, and altruism is rarely commodified. Ikigai instead is the process of purpose, meaning making, and the actions you can take to nurture it. It is both meditation and discipline. It's an ongoing dialogue with the self about the things that awaken your soul and being intentional about incorporating it into your life. My ikigai recognizes the power of my own poverty in relation to other people's poverty. Compared to my peers, I have nothing. But compared to other countries, I'm one of the wealthiest people in the world. My ikigai has a name, and I decided to call it prudent philanthropy. So, prudent philanthropy in its most reduced form is about maximizing the amount of good that I can do in the world with what little resources that I have at my disposal. The resources I use are both money and time. I can donate money to organizations, and I can donate my time. But because money is limited and my time on Earth finite, it's important for me to identify organizations that further my purpose on my behalf so I can focus on meaning making of public service. In the last year, for example, I paid for 365 medical examinations at the Partners in Health Hospital in Mirebalais, Haiti, where doctors treat patients with HIV and tuberculosis. I purchased water pumps through Heifer International for 2 communities in East Africa because we know that clean water reduces vector transmission and creates more healthy, nourishing agricultural goods. I also funded the installation of a digital receiver for an after-school program in the Dandora slums of Nairobi through the UMass World Librarians Project. Children in Nairobi now have free access to the UMass Library database to guide their own interests and learning in whichever way they choose. So for the cost of just one iPhone, I'm taking care of immunocompromised parents, building healthier food systems, eliminating the transmission of infectious diseases, and breaking down access barriers in education. I also serve on volunteer committees for the city of East Hampton, Massachusetts. For just 8 hours of my time each month, we were able to create a rent relief program for families at risk of eviction due to the COVID-19 pandemic with funds that were appropriated from the Community Preservation Act. Together with Community Action Pioneer Valley, we're preventing over 80 families in East Hampton from homelessness and interrupting new generational cycles of poverty from forming. We successfully lobbied for zoning ordinance reform that allows for accessory dwelling units, lessening the burden on aging or disabled family members, giving them affordable opportunity to live with family in adjacent homes instead of costly institutional housing. Currently, I'm working on the dispossession of 3 newly vacant public schools to be developed. These buildings are an integral part of the City of East Hampton's strategic vision for the future. And that's just 8 hours a month. So I felt it important on this 50th anniversary of University Without Walls to tell you where I've been and where I'm going, because University Without Walls was the catalyst that made it all possible. There's something deeply profound about the degree planning process and the prior learning experience portfolio that awakens the ikigai in all of us, even if we don't call it that. It gives us permission to choose our future while paying respects to our past. As students, alumni, faculty, and staff, I implore you to think about how you want to show up in the world. Whether it's early childhood education, digital media, public health, management of the arts, or even sustainability. There are public boards and committees, task forces, and nonprofit organizations who need your expertise. But then I also want you to ask yourself, what is my reason for being? What can I do with 8 hours of my time and just the cost of an iPhone? Thank you so much, and happy birthday, University Without Walls.